3 capitals, 1 republic, 0 agreement. South Africa is the only nation on Earth where the president signs laws in one city, parliament debates them in another, and the highest court interprets them from somewhere entirely different. Pretoria, Cape Town, and Bloemfontein each claim a slice of power, yet none can truly call itself the capital. This bizarre setup isn't just a historical quirk, it's a logistical nightmare costing taxpayers millions every year. So why hasn't South Africa picked a single capital like every other country? Stick around, because the answer isn't simple. It threads through colonial grudges, constitutional chess moves, and billion-rand price tags. Pretoria, the administrative seat of South Africa, shelters about 2.95 million residents. Cape Town, the legislative centre, is even larger at roughly 5.06 million. Bloemfontein, home of the Supreme Court of Appeal, counts about 619,000. Yet constitutional scholars point out the Republic has no article naming an official capital. The Constitution assigns each brand its seat, but technically designates Cape Town for Parliament under Section 4, though this still doesn't make it the sole capital. Tourists get 3 different answers online, and school kids are taught all of them, because even the textbooks won't commit. This fragmentation is not just an academic quirk. Every January, government convoys snake 1,469 kilometers down the N1 from Pretoria to Cape Town to open Parliament, a journey longer than the drive from Berlin to Rome. Cargo planes ferry confidential files, while hotel rates around the parliamentary precinct leap. The confusion stokes myths. Some visitors think one city was demoted after apartheid, while others believe the tri-capital idea dates back to British divide and rule. Both guesses dance around the truth, but neither lands squarely on it. During the first pandemic lockdowns in April 2020, committees tried to cut costs with Zoom. Hackers gatecrashed one session, flooding MP screens with pornography and racial insults, forcing the speaker to halt proceedings, and reinforcing the view that critical votes still had to happen in person. A minister may approve a budget in Pretoria at dawn, debating Cape Town after lunch, and face legal questions about it at the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg or the Appellate Bench in Bloemfontein by Friday. That intercity loop keeps staff, journalists, and lobbyists in constant motion, burning through public funds. The real question is, why the nation accepts the hassle? To answer, we must rewind to 1902. When battle-scarred negotiators carved a compromise into the newborn Union. When the Second Anglo-Boer War ended in 1902, British generals and Boer commandants faced a fractured landscape. 4 colonies would soon be stitched into the Union of South Africa, but no city could claim enough legitimacy to dominate the rest. Cape Town symbolized British maritime power, Pretoria echoed Afrikaner Republican pride, and Bloemfontein rested at a rare crossroads prized by both sides. Delegates wrestled for months before sketching a political map that would survive upheavals for more than a century. The compromise crystallized on 31st of May 1910, when the Union Constitution quietly allocated separate homes for the branches of government. Pretoria would host the Governor-General, the Cabinet, and the Public Service. Cape Town retained Parliament, so coastal merchants kept their proximity to lawmakers. Bloemfontein gained the Appellate Court to pacify inland farmers wary of British lawsuits. This triad cooled tempers but baked rivalry into the new nation. Elites in Cape Town bragged that ships carrying gold and wool would force politicians to visit them anyway. Pretoria's servants dismissed their coastal colleagues as talkative, while they did the real work up north. Bloemfontein's judges insisted their central location guaranteed neutrality, ignoring that it also limited growth. Foreign observers found it odd. The New York Times called it statecraft by railway timetable, yet the blueprint endured through segregation laws, apartheid, and democratic transition because no region liked the travel, but losing power was a greater fear. As the 20th century rolled forward, the speed of compromise slowed, but the cost of disunion climbed. Think your daily commute is tough? Wait until you see South Africa's perpetual shuttle. Pretoria crowns the High Veld at 1,339 meters elevation. Cape Town hugs the Atlantic, and Bloemfontein sits on a sun-baked plateau halfway between. Link them on a map and you draw a triangle that covers nearly 800,000 square kilometers, 2/3 of the Republic. The Pretoria to Cape Town airline alone spans 1,310 kilometers. Because of those gaps, bureaucracy moves on wheels and wings. Airlines operated about 40 scheduled flights per day on the Johannesburg-Cape Town corridor in 2024. each Airbus A320 burning around 7,900 kilograms of fuel. Treasury researchers calculated that MPs travel more than 20 million air miles per year between seats of power, a loop that could orbit Earth roughly 800 times. Dreamers keep sketching shortcuts. A feasibility note before the Transport Portfolio Committee in August 2024 floated a high-speed maglev link from Johannesburg to Cape Town, priced at about $30 billion US. Close to $550 billion at today's exchange rate, engineers boasted of a 3-hour ride. Treasury quietly filled the scheme under long-term aspirations. The highway alternative is no gift. The N1 drive takes at least 18 hours and crosses 5 provinces. Convoys must plan around icy passes in the Free State and winter storms at the Hex River Valley. Each storm or frost delay can derail entire committee calendars. Physical space dictates politics too. Cape Town's influx of parliamentary staff pumps millions into local hotels and restaurants during sittings. Gauteng retains most permanent civil service posts, and the Free State endures quieter months between court hearings. Supporters argue that the spread stops any one city from becoming too powerful. Let's leave the landscape and enter the ledger, tallying what the sprawling layout of South Africa's government costs in hard currency. National Treasury's 2023 audit found that keeping the government in motion cost an extra R698 million in travel and accommodation that year alone. A leaked feasibility study put the one-time expense of relocating Parliament to Pretoria at roughly R9 billion, but predicted yearly savings between R500 million and R750 million. Commuting is only the opening line. On the 2nd of January 2022, an arson attack gutted the National Assembly building in Cape Town. Initial damage was tallied at R221 million, and by March 2025, the projected reconstruction bill had swelled past R3.3 billion. Every cent of that restoration keeps lawmakers rooted in the Cape, reinforcing the split rather than curing it. Duplicated infrastructure stretches the Treasury thin. Cabinet memoranda shuttle by courier between capitals 4 times a week. Departments mirror data servers for security compliance. A 2024 Stellenbosch brief pegged duplication costs at R1.2 billion a year, enough to build 600 new primary school classrooms. Proponents of the present system reply that relocation would devastate Cape Town's winter economy. The same leak warned that the city could lose about 3,000 professional jobs tied to Parliament, while Pretoria would gain just 2,360. Committees convene, commissions report, and nothing changes. The 2022 fire supercharged calls to crown a single capital. Civil society group One City SA gathered 52,000 signatures urging Parliament to relocate to Pretoria. The Democratic Alliance countered, keep Parliament where it is, but move the presidency south. President Ramaphosa warned in 2024 that any shift needs a 2/3 constitutional amendment and careful economic modelling. Yet support keeps climbing. A 2025 Afrobarometer poll found 61% of urban respondents favour one capital, while 29% defend the triple arrangement. Architects have drifted blueprints for new parliamentary chambers on open land opposite the Department of International Relations in Pretoria. Economist Dawie Marx calls the site ideal for a new legislator, complete with solar roofs and a rapid bus link to Gautrain, at an estimated cost of R7 billion. Cape Town business leaders respond with warnings of business closures. Meanwhile, Bloemfontein law societies lobby to keep their judicial prestige, fearing the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg might absorb the Supreme Court of Appeal. The blueprints grow bolder, the lobbying fiercer, but legislation remains paralysed by competing provincial interests. Every proposal to crown a single capital collides with South Africa's arithmetic. The constitutional amendment requires 2/3 of MPs, as the president stated, plus the support of 6 provinces. Western Cape delegates vow to block any bill that robs their province of parliament, and Free State lawmakers guard Bloemfontein's court just as fiercely. Interests reinforce the gridlock, and identity digs deeper. Cape Townians point to Mandela's first parliamentary speech in 1994. Pretorians reply that the Union buildings hosted his inauguration, and Bloemfontein advocates recall the 1899 peace talks that symbolized judicial fairness. None will concede their narrative lightly. Public patience is thinning. The 2025 Afrobarometer survey, showing 61% support for a single capital, marks the strongest consensus since democracy dawned. Young voters watching lectures on their phones wonder why ministers still carry paper files across half the country. Meanwhile, public debt hovers near 74% of GDP, leaving scant fiscal space for either relocation or overlapping infrastructure. Politicians know that choosing one city risks votes and short-term jobs, yet delaying weighs on the national budget. In recent years, however, a quiet revolution has begun as digital technology chips away at travel costs. In 2023, the National Assembly piloted live streaming and secure video conferencing for committee meetings, reducing one-way trips by 25%. At the same time, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development invested in digital case management systems, allowing Bloemfontein judges to review files electronically rather than wait for physical couriers. When the presidency attempted to host a virtual parliament session during the 2024 floods in the Hex River Valley, opposition parties complained that unstable rural broadband made remote voting impractical. As a result, over 150 staffers flew into Cape Town on short notice, hotel rooms were booked within 72 hours, and committee work was staggered due to bandwidth constraints. Despite these digital steps, the Republic's real capital remains a blur on the N1 highway and in the narrow sky lane above it, crisscrossed by red-eyed officials at dawn. Until lawmakers rate pragmatism above pride, the seat of power will keep racing the sunrise south and back north, day after day. If you were in charge, how would you fix South Africa's capital chaos? Share your solution in the comments, hit like, and make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video.